All right, you loyal listeners. Welcome to another episode of Agency Intelligence Podcast, where I give you that real information and not that artificial that they try to make you believe out there. This is Cass, and I am here back with a friend of mine, Joel Poythress. Now, let me ask you something here, Joel. I was going to ask you before we got on, and I know this is bad, but I drink and smoke a lot of weed, so sometimes I can forget things a lot. But being all serious, we did a podcast together before, right?
I don't think we've done one like this. I did an interview at a couple of shows, but I don't
There
think
we
it's a
go.
formal podcast. Yeah.
I knew I had interviewed you somewhere before, but when I looked this morning real quick inside of the catalog, I didn't see you in there. I saw a lot of Lightspeed Voices, but I did not see that. Okay, all right. So loyal listeners, this will be a first time then that we'll have him on. And Joel, introduce yourself. Tell the loyal listeners who you are.
Hey guys, this is Joel Poythress. I've been with Lightspeed Voice and Lightspeed Solutions now for 2.5 years. Formerly in telecommunications, I was doing the math the other day, 30 years now. So
wow.
Up through AT&T, Bell South, CenturyLink, Windstream, and a couple of VoIP providers, Sangoma, Star2Star, and now with Lightspeed.
So Joel, I didn't realize that you've been doing telecommunications your whole, I mean, you know this shit inside and out.
And my dad is a 30-year retired Bell South international engineer for communications. So my life has been in telecom, literally my entire life.
Wow, you grew up around it. Wow, holy cow! I did not know that. Loyal listeners, see, now you know stuff that other people don't. That's why you hit play. Wow, Joel, that's fantastic, man. I really I didn't know that, and it does explain why whenever we're talking about things, it seems like you kind of know more than just, hey, I'm just a salesperson here, or I'm just a CR. You're Chief Revenue Officer, isn't that what you are there?
Yep, responsible for sales, marketing, product delivery, support, everything else relative to our customer base, which we, take great pride in.
I wrote, he probably didn't tell you, but I wrote Brad an email 2, 3, 4 weeks ago. Did he tell you about that email that I wrote?
He did mention it to me.
Okay. I was going to say
he did mention it.
Yeah. Well, and I meant it. I had just been talking with somebody who told me that they had spoke to you guys at Indie and they were talking really highly about you. And so I happened to be on the phone with Mitch, and with Mitch, me and Mitch were on the phone with these people. And, we got off, and me and Mitch started having a conversation. He's like, you know what? You never hear anybody, Cass, you never hear anybody say anything bad about Lightspeed Voice or Brad, or Joel or anybody. The only time you see it is like there's these weird places around America where your guys' system for some reason doesn't work because it's like old architecture and your badass system doesn't work into it. I can't remember. And we were talking to one of those people many, many years ago. And it was crazy because that's what Mitch was kind of talking about, is saying like outside of that, like you never hear anybody say anything bad about the people. And I said, you know what? As much money as Brad probably spends on going to these damn events, probably somebody needs to tell him that. And so that's what I decided to write him that email, just letting him know that you guys are respected, like people, it's not that other companies aren't respected. And I'm not even saying your company, I'm just saying at events, right? It's just that sometimes you see different people at these events all the time. And it's like, oh, they got a new salesperson and that salesperson's gone in 4 months. And then they got another salesperson and you see him it's always the same people with you guys. It's the same. Brad builds loyalty in what he does. And I'll be honest, I think the only reason why the people who were there before you weren't there, it's not because that Brad didn't need them or they didn't need the job. I think they had grown to their limits of where they could bring a Lightspeed Voice. Lightspeed Voice used to be a little small business that turned into this giant behemoth. And I know from running businesses that the bigger you get, you have to find people that have more effectiveness, right? And John C. Maxwell's 21-year Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, he calls it the law of the lid, which means that you can only grow an organization to the amount of effectiveness that your people are, right? So if your effectiveness is obviously larger than some of the other people that came before you, because you're allowed to take a business that's already big and even make it more effective, if that makes sense. I know I kind of went off on a tangent there. But I love the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership, and just seeing them in practice is pretty cool. So kudos to you, Joel.
No, thank you. I mean, we have been in growth mode relative to our customer base and our product feature set. As you know, we've launched some new products, some new capabilities, well over 20 to 30% growth in the last 2 to 3 years, and added people. I mean, we're over 65 employees now and growing. We dedicate ourselves to the space. We're not an end all be all to everyone. We're really focused on the verticals where we're strong, and insurance is our primary vertical. And that's where we spend, like you said, we try to be present and partners in the industry with the multitude of trade shows, events, because that's where we meet our customers and our prospects and our partnerships, and really drive that value. Because, that relationship, that rapport, that personalized service, like you said, nobody really says anything. Brad founded this company in 2009. We've been around a long time. We take great pride in that white glove service, I love it. I go to some of the shows and, take some of the sales guys with me. Right. And customers come up and give them a hug, and they have those relationships and that rapport, and that's important. And we take great pride in that.
Yeah, people are amazed all the time, the relationship that I have with you guys. But then again, I had 4 other phone systems before I had you, and I realized how much of a nightmare they were. So all you loyal listeners, I want you to know that we're going to dive into a little bit of what LSV and LSS is, so that you guys know. We have Lightspeed Voice, which is what he was just talking about, started in 2009. Then we have Lightspeed Solutions, which is something they've been doing for a while, but really put a product behind it in the last couple years. But I want to let you know, we're not going to get too boring, and I'm going to end with what the future communication system will look like. I'm going to give you what it really is going to look like inside of an agency. When the phone rings, what's going to happen and how you're going to use that information. So hold on with me, and you're going to be able to get that. Hey, Joel, tell us a little bit about those. So 2009, Lightspeed Voice comes about. You guys are awesome. You're known for having the best customer service out there. Why do you think that is?
We do multitude of things. In the Lightspeed Voice side of the house, no, let me back up a little bit. So literally in 2009, we were a managed service provider, IT and cybersecurity and computer services, and then augmented into the VoIP world with our current Lightspeed Voice solution.
Did not know that. Okay.
That was the original foundation of the company. And that grew through a large insurance agency, which I won't mention on air, and kind of the anchor tenant, one of the captive ones, and then expanded into the independent space. But if you go back, the Brad founding, owner, member, bootstrapped this entire company and organization. The focus is on customer service and support. We do not go offshore for anything. Our developers, we have in-house, we develop the code, the product, all our in-house, our own. All our personnel are here in Venice, Florida. Not all of them, but all our support personnel. We have a network operations center. We answer the phone, typically less than 60 seconds. You get a human being on the phone. We have a white glove onboarding service where a new client is trained, onboarded, and has a personalized rep or reps that support them for 30 days to show them the integrations, the system, platform, any training, any questions. That is unique to the industry. Nobody else does that. If you sign up with one of the big behemoth VoIP providers, they hand you a user guide and ship you a phone and say, good luck. We don't do that. We take great pride in that. And that's a key differentiator and something we're not going to change. And I've gotten feedback from new customers, old customers. We don't lose a lot of customers. We keep our customers long-term. We want to have, that relationship and that experience. And, from my perspective, it's unique in the industry. Coming from some of the big guys, the focus, it's a maniacal focus on that customer service and that white glove treatment. And it drives our differentiation in the industry. And if you look at how we've progressed over the years and changed and what we've done the last 2.5 years, it's only augmented and bettered the entire process. And I take great pride in that. Now, that was Lightspeed Voice. You want me to talk about Lightspeed Solutions a little bit?
Yeah, one thing that I like that you talk about real quick before you do the LSS, you talk about this has always been fascinating to me. Okay. And I've probably told you about this. I tell it to Brad all the time. Like the customer service is great because you're all Americans, all onshore, all this stuff. But Also, you guys own a lot of your own infrastructure, which I think is really, really cool. And a lot of people don't realize, and loyal listeners, just here, take this in 30 seconds. Basically, just think of it as there's only so many telephone companies out there, right? Let's just think of it that way. I'm going to keep this very fourth grade level. And if I wanted to create a new telephone company, rather than going and creating all my own stuff, I could just go to a current company and said, "Hey, can I sell a block of your infrastructure?" Just making it nice. Let's say they like cut off a piece and they say, "Jason, here's part of our infrastructure. You can sell these phone lines to other people and I would service them." But if I had a servicing issue and I needed to get it fixed, I would have to then call up to the people that I white labeled it from, the block that I got it from. So sometimes you guys, I hear you guys out there in these forums and be like, "Well, I was talking to level 1 tech support and then they turned me to level 2 tech support. And then I finally had to get to somebody who could actually fix it." Well, that's because they're white labeling off other people's products, meaning they're basically renting that system and then reselling it to you. Very, very expensive and very, very hard to do, to create your own from the ground up. Now, I know that to be true 5 years ago. Is that pretty still well said, Joel, in the fact of the infrastructure that you guys own and how you operate your business? Am I right or wrong about that?
100%. We do not offshore, offload, white label any of our technology stack. It's all
so
ours.
Important. So
it's
important.
Literally our brand. Now, we could white label it to other people, but we don't. We choose not
right.
to. We focus on our customers.
But this is the reason why you guys have integrations when the others can't. This is like one of the main things. Like when we own the shit, we can do whatever you want to do, right? And so that's so good. And I know that's like boring to say that to somebody, you know, their eyes glaze over or something like that. But like at the end of the day, most of the issues that are happening with these other carriers is because their kind of hands are tied because they're getting it from somebody else who's probably got the problem, you know? And I just think that is so important for agents to hear and understand that it may not be the sexy reason, but it is the reason why you guys have great customer support besides all the other things.
Well, they also, just to expand upon that, you talk about integrations, and that's our strong suit and where we take great pride. We integrate with over 50 different AMS CRMs platforms. Now, in insurance is our primary, and we have deeper integrations now with customization, with our new Nova AI product being automatically ingested into the agency management system, saving tons of time, money, resources, the calling features, the texting features that now we integrate with. Because we own the technology, it's our APIs, it's their APIs. We go direct. If there's a problem, if there's a glitch, we solve it immediately. You don't have to go to some white label provider that's in Europe, that's on a different time zone that you can't get a response on. We can flatten that issue very quickly. And, that gives us a much better stickiness and support with our partners too. And we do invest heavily with several of the industry experts in the AMS platform space.
So we started Virtual Intelligence, which is for virtual employees across, we have offices out of Colombia and offices out of the Philippines. And one of the problems we were having is we had the good communication system, right? We had the phone system. We were using it. Want to talk more about Nova here in a minute. Okay. But let's jump over to how did we get into LSS here, Joel? And so everybody knows we have Lightspeed Voice, LSV, and Lightspeed Solutions, which is LSS. When you hear us saying that, I apologize, loyal listeners. I should actually say what it is instead of me and Joel sitting here talking about this. But how did you get? I think it was kind of your doing, right, of kind of bringing in LSS. Tell us about it. Brag a little bit, Joel.
Yeah, I'll brag. So give a little background. Brad Fuller, who we've talked about, originally was Foundation was a managed service provider. So for those of you that don't know what that means, that's an IT outsourced cybersecurity support mechanism. And they're huge across the United States and the world. So we did have some foundational customers that were managed service provider. And what really stemmed it is the nature from going to localization to national support now. Traditionally, back in the managed service provider day, you wanted a local guy who your printer didn't work, could roll a truck over and pop over and, fix your Ethernet cables and your router and your firewall and your printer not working, your computer not coming online. All that's being done through the cloud nowadays. So we had some existing managed services customers, Lightspeed Solutions, and then we had some voice customers asking for help with their local network architecture. So we said, we can do that for you. You can outsource your IT, your cybersecurity, your managed services. We have the technicians, we have the expertise, and we have certified technicians that are available to solve those issues and work with you and provide a broader service. Now, there's not a lot of VoIP providers that provide both managed services and VoIP, and there's not many managed services providers that provide VoIP. So we're combining the whole technology stack into a solution for our customers that they can basically outsource all their IT and phone needs and managed detection and response, endpoint detection and response, anti-phishing, anti-Trojan, anti-malware, all the issues that they would be saddled with from an IT support perspective. And in today's environment, where there's multiple attempts on hackers and threat actors, multiple per second on corporations, millions of dollars of ransomware payouts, we can solve all those issues for our clients. And we've had great success in augmenting those. We have a lot of Lightspeed Solution clients that don't buy VoIP from us. They just buy our managed services platform.
Huh. That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, so it's been something we took the best practices of what we were doing prior to my arrival and picked the best technology stack. And there are some solutions out there that are all in one, but usually when you go all in one, you don't get the best of the breed. We pick the best of the breed of the solution stack, and so we have different features and products that support all our customers' needs, and we build a very cost-effective bundle, cheaper than a lot of our competitors, that enables them to have peace of mind, a great platform, security on their computers, support desk as they need it, call a human being, submit a ticket, and we can support all their issues. And we have several use cases of things that we've done for clients to really help them improve and save them from potential risk and exposure as well.
Yeah, and so you loyal listeners, I am a user, been a user a long time of Lightspeed Voice, but now we have almost 150 computers that are managed by their managed services. So yes, we get a little bit of a discount once you get over 100 computers, but I want you to know we pay just like everybody else does. We get all of the same services. We still go through the same customer support. So there's no favoritism here. But I do know for a fact that, there's some good managed service providers. But like I said, when you're going to have your phone system already through them and so much stuff, it just makes sense that you would have that. Also, one of the benefits of us too, I don't know if it's one of the services you provide, but it's something that we paid for with you guys, is have a lot of people that are with Google and they want to move their stuff over to Microsoft, right? So one of the things is I said, hey, as you guys are doing all the cybersecurity and everything for us, is there any way you can just also move us off of Google and put us all on the Microsoft Express? So we had to get rid of all of our GoDaddy stuff. And yes, that costs money because everything does. But the fact is, it was nice to have somebody that was going to actually do that. And I didn't have to go find another service firm to do that. So phones, you guys were helping us with the computer security and all that, but then also trying to actually help us build the infrastructure to where it was actually clean. And we weren't using sometimes Google Drive, sometimes OneDrive, sometimes this email. So it all cleaned it up a little bit. So that was pretty good. So yeah, you guys are fantastic at what you do. I mean, you really, truly are. In my opinion, I think that there's a ton of VoIP companies out there, but when it comes to the insurance industry, like, we kind of know who the bullshitters are. You know what I mean? So I think that's a big marketing thing for you guys, is that it's easy to just be one of these companies that you find online because I'm just some small business trying to make a living. But when you're talking to other insurance agents and you're saying, hey, how does this integrate and how does this work? It's important that we do have somebody who knows our business inside and out. Now we'll go to that. Let's jump over to this Nova thing. So Brad kind of had a feeling, you guys had a feeling, and realizing that the industry is changing. AI is like the word. You can't go through the day anymore without saying AI 50 times, right? And a lot of times things, I've noticed, this is a side thing, Joel, a lot of things that we say over and over, we get tired of saying it. I don't really get tired of saying AI over and over. And the reason is because I'm usually not talking about the same thing. It's so many things in our life now are being evolved and ate up by AI. It's just wild. I mean, how much this stuff is being used in our agency. But Now we've got these calls, right? We're sitting on a team call. We're getting them recorded. We're sitting on a Zoom call. We're getting them recorded. And it didn't take long for you and Brad to say, hey, how can we figure out to bring that into our phone system, right? And I like that. And you reached out to a bunch of agents, but me being one, Bradley Flowers being one, Bogus Hansel being another, upon other people. But those are the two that I had spoke with specifically when we were trying to make sure that we weren't being too scattered when we were trying to give you guys direction as to where we needed to go. But now tell us what Nova is for all those people out there who are like, hey, I have Lightspeed Voice or I don't, but what is Nova? What is that exactly?
Yeah, so thank you, Jason. Nova is an AI product that we developed based upon industry feedback, customer feedback over the last several months. And we're able to stand that up and operationalize it very quickly through some dedicated with our own development team. And it stands for Next Generation Office Virtual Assistant. It's AI. It takes the calls that you're having, and this is very prevalent in the industry now, a little bit more than it was when we developed this. It creates a call summary of the call, a 5 to 6, 7 sentence call summary, a sentiment of the call, provides you whether it's neutral, positive, or negative, and then a call transcription that you can actually search and look at and provide follow up training if need be. Now I can tell you, we deployed that. The industry is refining a little bit. We have over 600 endpoints using it today and leveraging it. I've met with Bradley Flowers, Bogus, a few other folks, like you mentioned, that have actually leveraged it to provide training updates, to provide gaps in some things they may have missed from a summary perspective, especially negative sentiment. If a CSR, a VE, a customer service rep has a negative call with a customer, we're creating some automation to say, hey, these last 5 calls yesterday had negative and you might want to follow up on them. So we're taking the customer feedback and refining the product, but it's going to expand. When you talk about AI and where it's heading in the industry, where the puck is going in the hockey world, love that term. We're getting feedback from clients, and yourself included, obviously, to put in some functionality around form potential fulfillment, around like, hey, did you ask about different policy capabilities, or did you to create what we call an agent assist model, where real time you're getting AI feedback on the active call with some ideas and thoughts you may have missed. That's coming up. It's not immediate, but we're taking all the feedback and refining it and making it more useful for a customer base. It's extraordinary.
When we talked about it, we had all these different things that we knew we could do. And strategically, we said, let's start with the small. Let's build that out, make sure we're good, and then come in, because we knew that once the foundation was started, agents would come in with their own way if they needed to use it. And sometimes that can be a downfall at the very beginning when you're just trying to get something built, right? And so I love it. And it goes to who you guys are. You guys sat there and you reached out to people who are using it. One of the things, Joel, that I've been saying for the last 5, 6, 7 years is the number one spot that we lose data in our agency every day is on the phone. So much stuff. And like, loyal listeners, remember whenever you heard like that an agency was recording its calls? We were like, whoa, they're recording their calls and you can listen to them. The problem with it was no one ever listened to them. And the only time we listened to them is whenever there was a problem. Right? There was like, hey, they said that they were going to withdraw this much money and they withdrew this much money. And you're like, damn, maybe we did. Because what are we terrible at, loyal listeners? We're terrible at putting notes in our system as well. So we would then go back over to the call and you would have to listen to the call, right? This is all normal. And oh my God, this recorded phone calls is so awesome. It saved me an E&O claim or this customer leaving. The problem with it is how many E&O claims are in those recorded phone calls that you don't know about, right? How many of those had cross-selling opportunities that you didn't know about? How many of those were you told about 4 or 5 life insurance options because you heard so-and-so was having a baby and that was just a side conversation in this conversation that could have alerted your sales team to take action on it? Those recorded phone calls didn't do anything for us. They just sat there. Now, Nova is able to essentially take that call recording, also real time as well, but let's just keeping it simple, fourth grade level out there, loyal listeners, is now actually able to take that information, that data, and be able to decipher it on the things that Joel was just saying. Like, hey, what's the mood of it? Is there any strategy? Should we be saying something? Should we not say something? Could we add more benefits to it? So I think that this is, if you think about it, our recorded phone calls were so pointless in the fact they sat there unless we needed them. Now we're able to use those in a proactive manner to show us how the customer needs us based on the conversation we had. And so I just think it's incredible. I really, truly do. And I think you're seeing a lot of this in Teams calls or Zoom calls, but you weren't seeing it in that. Are you seeing a lot of your competitors now coming out with the Nova, like your fewer in the insurance industry?
Some more are adding trying to add some different features around it. It's not easy to, there's a lot of customization. That's where we have our own development team, and there's different underlying providers that have different capabilities. The one thing we're adding now is multi-language support. Spanish, for example, that's a big key, particularly in southern states and Texas and so forth. So, it's going to continue to evolve and just progress. And it's hard from a technology perspective to ensure it's proper, it works well, the meaningful summarizations come out. There's different tools that do that. And, there are a lot of the bigger players, the AT&T, Verizon's in the industry, they're adding different capabilities. But what they don't have that we have is expertise in the industry space, in the insurance space, right? That's where we're tailoring it to really our vertical in that space and getting feedback from clients. We're also holding a quarterly, maybe monthly now, customer council where we get key customers and have feedback and try to, go to where they're seeing their needs and capabilities progressing. In 5 years, the technology is progressing so much. You're going to be able to extract so much information from that phone call through, VEs, VAs, virtual assistants. It's going to progress. I'd love to get your thoughts on where the puck is going in that regard. I know you're talking about it at the end of this conversation. But it's so exciting right now in the space, and just the pace of innovation is unbelievable.
It's unbelievable.
It's so exciting to watch and be a part of and really drive forward. It's
10 years ago, our innovation was so slow. It was fucking ridiculous how bad it was. And it's just like, and then you started seeing it pick up 2018, 2020, 2021 started blasting. 2022, ChatGPT came out, and stuff is just, there's not enough that you can say about AI when you stop and you look at the amount of productivity it gives people. They say that the steam engine increased productivity by 2 times in 1860s when it was invented. They're saying that this is 30 to 50 times is what it's increasing productivity. And I mean, when it comes to just like, I'm trying to hire a commercial lines assistant, a commercial lines agent, right? Or a commercial lines senior account manager. And inside my chat bot, it's called Tia. That's her name, is Tia, the Insurance Alliance, but TIA. She kind of looks like, we got an avatar with her and everything. She looks like Dora the Explorer, if you remember back in the day. So that's what she kind of looks like. And we put her that way because we want her to go find information in our agency that we need to use and stuff like that. So the fact that ChatGPT, I went into her and everything we have in our agency, not everything, we're constantly uploading things, our underwriting guidelines, all our processes, our procedures. We now have this bot that actually reads our whole SharePoint. So anything we put into SharePoint, it now uses that as the data it pulls out and does it. I literally, because she already knows all this stuff, I said, hey, my agency, we are trying to hire a commercial line senior account manager. They must have at least 10 years of insurance. They must be fluent in AMS 360. We gave it all this stuff, right? And we said, write us a job interview. And boom, it wrote us like 4 or 5 options. Jumped over to LinkedIn. LinkedIn says, give me your what you're looking for, your job posting. Boom, we did that. Bam, we were out there, and under $800 and some, we got over 150 people. We narrowed it down to like 50, and we ended up narrowed it down to 5, and we ended up hiring one, right? The point is just for me to go write that job listing posting would have taken me 30 minutes to an hour. I would have had minimum, I would have had to send it over to my buddies who are the proofreaders and said, hey, proofread this. And then they would have came back and had me change 7 things. But boom, like it did it literally in 2 to 3 minutes where it would have taken an hour to do that. I mean, I hope people are really paying attention to how much time they're saving. I think it's overwhelming to go, well, that was so much easier. No, you just gained 57 minutes back of your life. You know what I mean? And then you start adding that shit up over and over again. It's pretty phenomenal. So let's talk real quick as we wrap this up. We're going to talk about what does that phone system look in 5 years, and if it takes us 5 years to get there, I'm gonna fucking come beat Brad up. It shouldn't take that long. Okay, sorry, Reza, beep that out of there. But here's I know Brad already knows this. We've already talked a little bit about this in the conference room, but what's preventing us right now from having this today, loyal listeners, is technology costs. Okay, a lot of this stuff costs a lot of money. For instance, taking that recorded phone call and feeding it through AI so that AI can interpret it costs money, right? And even if it only costs 25 cents or $2, that's a lot when you're talking about millions of phone calls. Okay, so we got to think in that terms there, loyal listeners. But here's what happens: the phone rings. Okay, the phone rings, and I have a person, probably won't even be a human here in 5 years, but let's just say in 2 years, the phone rings and the person says, "I would like to have an auto quote." Okay, boom, auto quote. Something on the screen pops up because it's already hearing that. As the customer is talking to me and as I'm talking to the customer, that information is being stripped off real time, right out of the conversation. So let's say you say, hey, can I have your first and last name? And they say your first name is Joel, last name is Poythress. So boom. We're going to take that, Joel, that name, and we are going to go put that into all the carriers that we have to rate. It's going to go into the PL Rater. It's going to go into Erie. It's going to go into Safeco. It's going to go into Travelers. It's going to go into us. When I ask the date of birth, I'm not, understand here, loyal listeners, I'm not writing this information down as the salesperson. I'm just asking the information that needs to be asked, because on my screen, there will be a list of questions, less like we have now, but we won't be typing it out. And as we're asking all those questions, it's real time stripping it off and putting it into the raters, to where when I get to the very last question, and which that questions, there's not going to be many of them because most of that information is going to be brought in. Okay. But of the questions I have to ask, by the time I get to the last question, picture on the left-hand side of your screen or the right-hand side of your screen, all your carriers lined up with all their quotes real time. Not only do they have the quotes real time, but they've also ran the loss controls, or ran the MVR, ran the clue report, already matched that against the underwrite guidelines of the carrier, found out it is a final quote, runs the credit, and gives you the final quote. Now, it's doing all that while you're still on the phone with the person. And by the time you get done to the final, so you're taking a conversation that right now is anywhere between 15 to 20 minutes, which I believe in long phone calls create better closing ratios. I really, truly do. So it's not so much that you're shrinking the amount of time that you're on the phone with the client, even though you are, but it's about the fact that you're filling it now with conversations that are going to lead to more important things, right? And as you were saying, Joel, as you ask questions, the AI is so smart and has listened to millions of phone calls. It's going to say, hey, they just said this. You might want to mention this, right? And you're going to be surprised that when you mention this, the customer's going to be like, well, hey, yeah, I wasn't even thinking about that. Yeah, da-da-da-da-da. And we're going to be able to have more meaningful conversations without having to ask all this ridiculous information. And that's the way that I see it going. And I see it coming off real time. Now, what prevents that from today, loyal listeners? Joel, I want to get your feedback on this. But what prevents that today is that it would cost a lot of money to strip that data off real time, give it into some kind of RPA. I say it all the time, loyal listeners. AI and RPA will merge to be one. AI is the brain. RPA is the hands and feet. So when this information, the AI is saying, hey, ask this, it's stripping that information off. It's going to some kind of RPA that then is going and putting it into the raters to be able to give you that information. Stripping that off real time costs a crap load of money right now to do, essentially. This is why OpenAI, just got 70 billion and they need 70 billion more because it costs so much to compute this stuff. Now, that's the way I see it, Joel. you're the one that's got a dad of 30 years and doing this, and you've been doing this 30 years. Wouldn't your dad absolutely shit if he knew all this stuff? Is your dad still alive?
Oh yeah, he's still alive.
Shit.
And he's kind of, again, we're kind of nerds, right? He's very technologically focused in his 80s, but it's fascinating, right? To watch, the things that have changed over his lifespan. It's
oh my God. Yeah. I bet you it's not, this guy's got to be blown away at what's going on.
Yeah, it's like he can't even fathom like what happens with AI and virtual, assistants that are talking to you on the phone, right? That aren't humans. It's unbelievable. It's pretty wild.
I don't imagine what that guy thinks. Oh my gosh,
unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, he saw it from the beginning when we had party lines, right, where the whole neighborhood used all the same line.
Plug and play. Yep.
Just most people listening to this have no idea what that is. My grandpa worked for Southwestern Bell.
Oh yeah.
That's the only reason I know of all this shit, because he used to tell me about it when I was a kid. So yeah, wow, dude, that's
it's
unbelievable. That's where we're going though.
Yeah, and it's expensive. You mentioned it's costly. It's evolving. These companies in AI that are around, collecting 40, 50, 70 million dollars to stand up an LLM, a large language model, requires a significant amount of computing power to process all this data. It will refine and get better and innovate over time. But literally, you'll be able to run an insurance agency 24/7, collect claims, billing inquiries all through 2 a.m. in the morning. It doesn't matter, all through phone calls, but through that automation and ingestion and automation and looking at the tie-ins to the platforms as the agency management system and all the billing and the different platforms tied together with voice. It's going to all be one integration and it'll allow, when I look at it from an industry perspective, and I've watched a lot of AI type seminars and gone to events and so forth. And there's one visionary that literally said AI will become a little bit more commoditized, and it'll allow us to focus on the human part of the relationship and driving that value and humanize things more, because it'll get more automated and more commoditized. Interesting feedback. Right, because
we don't realize that a lot. I guess he's kind of saying we don't realize a lot of the conversation we have is probably pointless data that could be found somewhere else. It's actually, once we have all of that, then we can get to the human side of what we really need to be talking about. That'll
be a differentiator with your customers. You mentioned a long call actually results in better results. It's that humanization of the conversation.
It is. And it's the humanization of that 20-minute call is why the close ratio is high. But we have less of the humanization because we have all this bullshit data that we're trying to collect. And once AI can bring that in there, it doesn't mean that the call gets shorter. It just becomes more humanized. I like that a lot. Right. That's good shit. Man, I gotta forget. Loyal listeners, I apologize. You know that I cuss every once in a while, but Joel and I know each other so well. Yeah. It's like him and I are just sitting here drinking a beer. I'm cussing like it's going out of style here. I apologize. So anyways, okay. Well, and the last thing I want to say, integration. So keep in mind, loyal listeners, one of the reasons why it's hard for our team to work together and we're so siloed. Because when Jimmy takes a phone call for a quote or a service or whatever, and then Jimmy's gone the next day and the client calls in, Jimmy never made notes, right? Jimmy's bad. Jimmy's like Jason in an agency. You don't want me answering the phone because I don't make the notes that I need to, right? So now Nova eliminates that. Because now when Jimmy gets off the phone, whether he puts notes in or not, Nova can, if it's integrated with your CRM, which if you remember, most of theirs are, loyal listeners, it goes right into our AZ. So now Jimmy does it on Wednesday. Now on Thursday, Jimmy's not here. I have that client calls in. Any one of my other assistants can immediately open up Jimmy's file or open up the client's file and see, well, like, wow, Jimmy didn't put anything in here, but now we have all the notes from AI, gives a summary, the sediment, what we talked about. And so like this is best of both worlds here. I mean, literally agency owners, we have something that our employees are not doing that we need them to do. And we now have AI that does that exact thing and does it way better than any human could ever do that. I mean,
it's a huge productivity lift, efficiency lift, time savings. If Jimmy was doing a post-call wrap-up before, writing in a significant, he's spending 5, 10, 15 minutes. Now he doesn't have to spend that time. He can focus elsewhere on that customer relationship, on the next.
Sometimes I call into customer support at places and the person will say, hey, hold on just a second. Let me note the file from the last phone call. and you've got to sit there and wait sometimes, right? And you don't want to be a butthead because like they're trying to do their job. But wow, I didn't think of that. The time you save on the back end if Jimmy was doing his job, right? That's
if
good.
you do the math and you have quite a few customer service reps or VAs or VEs, it adds up monetarily, just productivity. It's amazing.
So Joel, I'm going to end with this. I wasn't planning on seeing this, but Joel, here's where I'm really kind of, I think, going to piss people off here. And I don't mean right here on this thing. I'm talking about, as I keep talking about this, the 40-hour work week is over 100 years old. In the last 100 years, our productivity has changed so unbelievably. It's crazy. We're now getting to the point, though, where we're starting to hear this mental illness. We're starting to hear people are very stressed out at work. They're very overloaded. And I think we have to start finding a balance of when do we just keep improving productivity, but maybe actually taking away some of their time as well, or giving back some of the time. When we're trying, for instance, in our agency, I've been talking about this a lot out there. We have 4-day work weeks. So we are open 5 days a week, 8:30 to 4:30. Okay. But everybody in our office only works 4 of those days. So when you think about it, you think, okay, well, people are like, well, how are you doing this? Well, it's real easy. You just give them a day off, right? And now you may say to yourself, well, how are they getting all the work done? Well, wait a minute. If they were getting all the work done in 5 days, 5 and 10 years ago, and they're doing roughly about the same amount of work. I mean, we're doing 30, 40 quotes a month. We were doing 30, 40 quotes a month 50 years ago, right? We get anywhere around 10, 15, 20 changes a week. We were getting 10 or 15, 20 changes a week that. So now productivity has sped up to where my team, actually, I either need to lay people off or I keep them and I give them an extra day off. And that is the difference. So if you come work at our agency, you are working 8:30 to 4:30. That's 8 hours. 1 hour lunch. That means you're working 7 hours a day. You work 4 days a week. That means you're working 28 hours out of the week. And people are wondering, well, how in the heck are you growing 15 to 20%? Just the same way you can. But what we don't realize is the productivity has sped up so much. It doesn't mean that they're doing less work. It means that they're able to do their work in a more efficient manner, and they're able to do more in the time they're here. So that then people would say, well, why don't you just have them work 5 days a week, and then they could be a more efficient manner and then productivity. Because there comes a point in time where they're humans. There comes a point in time where you can only ask them to do so much. And I don't want to say that we don't ask them to do more, but if we're saving 10 hours a week, is it okay to maybe give 2 or 3 hours to that person's sanity? Do we have to keep being 10 hours more productive whenever we could just be 8 hours more productive maybe, and allow 2 hours to go to that person's sanity? My point is, we talk about efficiency, we talk about productivity so much, but we don't realize it still takes humans to actually do all that stuff. And I think that's where we're overloading our people. I'll let you close it out, but any thoughts on any of that, Joel?
Well, you mentioned a term. I've heard your podcast. You didn't say it in this conversation. Work-life balance, right? It's that balance of all those items. And 20, 25, 30 years ago, that wasn't a term that was talked about. Technology has really taken us to that level, and now you're using technology to leverage that, to build that loyalty, that balance, that capability, and that begets more productivity and more loyalty and better customer service and those types of things. So it's definitely a forward thinking and drives that capability, because it's in the industry today, you're always on, you're always connected, you're always accessible. You have to find that balance. So I applaud you for that. That's great.
Something that really hit me hard about a year ago is when I read about Parkinson's law. And Parkinson's law says that work fills time allowed. So if I give you something to do, Joel, and I say, hey, Joel, I need you to do this for me, and could you have this for me in 2 hours? You'll have it to me in 2 hours, right? What you'll usually do is you'll usually look at this, you'll maybe even start on it a little, and then you'll realize, oh shit, I'm gonna get this done pretty quickly. All right, hold on. Let me go over here and talk to Alexis real quick. Hold on. Let me go talk to Brad about something. And then what you end up doing is you end up coming back in and you end up finishing it and you bring it to me in 2 hours and say, here you go. But if I would have said to you, hey, Joel, I need this in an hour. Could you get this to me? You would have went and done the same thing. You would have started it and you would have been like, shit, this is going to take me about an hour. I better keep working. Or, oh, this is going to take me about 15 minutes. Let me go talk to Alexis, right? So what happens is shrinking or expanding the time. This is the reason for time blocking. People want to know, well, why should I time block? Because if you time block and you follow it, your brain will work within those confines of what you say. And I don't know about you, but how many times do you you need to get something done before the end of the day? You most of the time don't end up getting it done until the last hour or two before you leave because you knew you had all day. Right. And so it's called Parkinson's law. Work fills time allowed. And I think that that's where that goes to. My people can get done in 40 hours what they can do in 32. Could they have 5 to 10 years ago? No, because the productivity and efficiency of technology was not there. But now that the efficiency and productivity of technology is there, they can do what they do in 32 to 40 hours. And someone would say, we'll still make them work 40 and get that extra 8 hours of work. That's not how it works. They don't automatically just start working 8 hours more. What they do is they start assessing everything they have in their day, and then they'll time block it into 40 hours. If you give them everything and allow them to time block it into 32, you're still getting the same amount of work, and they're getting 8 hours more of sanity. All right, I'll get off it. To me, Joel, this is like so freaking common sense. I don't understand why people are not able to see that, but I think more people will. Joel, we usually do these for about 20, 25 minutes. And I told him, loyal listeners, that we'd be about that long. How did somebody have a podcast that was actually probably pretty good for 46 minutes talking about communication? You have to be pretty much of a freaking geek like me and you, Joel. So, Joel, we wear it on our sleeve, don't we?
Absolutely.
Yep. Joel.
Thanks, Jason.
I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
We're going to talk again in about 6-7 months. We're going to come back, see how LSS is doing. I always tell everybody they're sister and brother companies, LSV and LSS. And, spend some time with your dad more than you do out there. This guy's got to be freaking the hell out, okay? He's looking at what's going on, and he's thinking to himself, I mean, I've said to myself, I think there's going to come a point in time, no one wants to die, but I think this world's moving so fast that there's going to come a point in time where I'm about 100. I'm going to be like, all right, I'm ready to get the hell out of here. This is too much for me. And I think your dad's going through that right now. I mean, holy moly,
It's unbelievable.
Man, it's unbelievable. It's just to be
self-driving cars. I mean, think of where we're at.
Oh, it's just got to be unbelievable. Unbelievable. Yep. Joel, thank you very much.
Thanks,
I appreciate
Jason.
you, man. Thank you.
Thanks, listeners.
Yep. To all you loyal listeners, you know what I do. I do what I do because I do it for you. Tell me your thoughts and tell me your ideas, and I'm going to tell the world what you have to say. This has been Cass. He's Joel. We are out.